Well, Aloha Sunday is just about the funnest day of the whole month here at Unity Church of Hawaii for many reasons. In addition to the ones that we've already talked about, there's also a deeply spiritual element to Aloha Sundays because we take a proverb that was part of the culture and the heritage of the first peoples of this land, the native Hawaiians. We take it from a book called Olelo Noeau that was put together by Mary Kavena Pukui. And this month the proverb is Ka po nui ho'o lako lako ke ao ho'o hema. I almost got it right. It's the closest I've been all day. But it's not as hard or long as some of the ones we've had. Ka means the, po means night or darkness or the realm of the gods. Nui means great, so great darkness, great realm of the gods. Ho'o lako lako means to provide for, to nourish, to protect. Ke also means the, ao means day, like daytime, or cloud, or the earthly realm. And ho'o hema hema means to, all by itself, it just means to neglect. So the English translation is the great night that protects, the day that neglects. And one of the beautiful things about this proverb is that it has two idioms in it that actually give it a deeper meaning. Po nui ho'o lako lako actually means that revelation from the gods. So when we get an inspiration that's divine, when we hear or feel God's guidance, that's what that first part means. That nourishes us. That's our source of supply. And then the second part, ho'o hema hema, also means the person who disregards the teachings, or the person that has spiritual gifts but doesn't use them. So when you have these teachings and you have these gifts and you don't use them, then you actually are in a state of neglect. And if you think about it on a continuum, there's the great night, the realm of the gods, that divine inspiration, the happiness, that experience we call heaven. That's like a 10. And then the 0 is the other end of the spectrum, the part that is all about discontent because we've neglected our spiritual gifts. So at any time we could do a self-evaluation and find out where we are on that continuum. About 6 months ago, I took a look at my life and all the components of my life, and I realized that I felt like I was at a 7, and that's good. I felt good about being a 7. But Reverend Sky St. John, who is our lead minister, is always saying, don't let the good life get in the way of the better life. So I invited myself to move into a bigger version of me. I invited myself to point myself towards that 8, 9, and 10 and let the love that lives in that heavenly state, let that joy, let that peace pull me from where I am to where I want to go, to the 8, 9, 10. And you know what happens when that happens, right? All the unresolved issues that were making me a 7, they start rearing up their wonderfully ugly heads. And they're saying, here, heal me, pay attention to me. And that invited me into the discontent part. And pretty soon it's like, I'm a little boat on a turbulent sea because I'm being pushed by the discontent, because I certainly don't want that anymore. And I'm being pulled by love, but it's just like, well, the word for it really is chaos. It's absolute chaos. But I'll tell you what keeps me sane is that I have faith in the process. I trust the process. I have faith in the spiritual principle of divine order. I have faith in my power of imagination. I have faith, and I know that when I move through this chaos to the best of my ability, then I move. It's spiritual law for this to happen. Because in the beginning, what was there? Chaos. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, all you see and all you don't see. And I love this part because that means, like, what I see is there, but also what I want to see is also there, even though I don't see it. Earth was a soup of nothingness, a bottomless emptiness, an inky blackness. It was that turbulent sea. It's that chaos. It's that void. It's, God's Spirit brooded like a bird above the watery abyss. And I especially am comforted by this part because it means no matter what the appearance is, no matter if I feel like it's bottomless, I know that God is with me all the time. So this process of unfolding the heart, this process of living in the chaotic mess, this process of getting guidance from God and opening my heart and moving towards 8, 9, and 10 is not only possible for me, but it's possible for everybody. And I know that because I used to be a 5. I used to be a 5, and in 2010, Margie and I, at the beginning of the year, gave a sermon on writing letters to God. And so we wrote these letters to God, which are powerful instruments of intention. And we wrote these letters to God, and I said, God, I don't want to be a 5 anymore. I want to be, like going towards 6, 7, and 8. And of course, 6 weeks later, as I was ending my marriage and entering a new relationship, no money left in the checking account, anyway, but I was being pulled by love and being pushed by discontent, and I moved. I embraced the chaos, and I moved. And before I was a 5, I was a 3. And that was really a lot of discontent, okay? So I know that it's possible, and I know to trust the process that we will all move along collectively towards this heaven. Genesis also tells the story about a man named Jacob. Jacob left his homeland to go out and father the nation of Israel. And on his first night out, he slept and had a dream. And in that dream, there was a ladder that went from him to heaven. Now, metaphysically, this means that in that dreamtime state, he was actually connected and had direct access to God. So all of God's ideas were able to move back and forth in his mind, which is beautiful because that tells us metaphysically that at any given moment in time, we too have that direct access to God and God's divine ideas, if we choose to be in that dreamlike state. So let's look at dreams. There are daydreams. Daydreams are like when you look out the window and you just kind of drift, or you're looking at the ceiling drifting, or you're looking at the floor because whatever is going on in the room has lost your interest. I love the description of this that Virginia Woolf gives. It's actually in a fiction novel, but it's so good. She's talking about a character, and she says, certainly she was losing consciousness of outer things. And as she lost consciousness of outer things, her mind kept throwing up from its depths scenes and names and sayings and memories and ideas like a fountain spurting. And this is really what happens when we enter that daydream state. There's just a constant springing forth of random, strange, unrelated, potentially helpful thoughts that go into our stream of consciousness. Now, science has proven that this is actually, daydreaming is actually a creative tool. They did a study at a university in the United States. They took a group of people and gave them the task of coming up with lists of things. And the group that got to take a break, that they gave them something really boring to do, so they daydreamed, the group that got the daydream break came up with 41% more things on the lists than the people who either didn't get a break or had highly structured breaks. So it's a good practice. It's a practice that has payoff, but it's not necessarily intentional. So there are sleep dreams, the kind of dreams you have when you take a nap or you go to sleep at night. They are creative canvas for solving real-world problems. Sleep dreams are thinking in a different biochemical state. And these are statements made by a doctor of, well, dreams at Harvard University. And what she says is when we dream when we're asleep, what happens is we replenish our neural pathways. We actually start thinking with different sides of our brain. We actually start visualizing in a very vivid manner, and we start thinking outside the box. Now, there are thousands of stories about people who have solved real-world problems by having their dreams at night. Martin Luther King and Gandhi both had dreams that they ended up living and changed the world. There was another man named Auguste Kukele well, he was German, but he was living in France at the time, who in 1836 had this dream about a snake coming back in a circle and eating its own tail. Now, the significance of this is that he then came up with a structure for the benzene molecule. And the benzene molecule revolutionized chemistry, which is probably not really exciting to you, but it opened the door for the invention of gasoline. And every time I drive my car, not only do I get to say thank you, God, but I get to say thank you, Auguste Kukele, for having that incredible dream. So the dreams that we have can provide those real-world solutions. And I know you're waiting for the statistics. They did a study. In fact, they've done a number of studies giving folks patterns to complete or puzzles to solve. And then they let the people go to sleep, and then they come back. And of the people who were able to solve them, 60% of, I'm not saying this right. Okay, I can get it. 60% of the people who solved them did so after they had slept on it. Okay, I did get it right? Okay. So if you have a daydream, you could increase your creativity by 41%. If you have a sleep dream or a night dream, you could increase your creativity potentially by 60%, and it gets better. Because we can do, while we're awake, we can do creative visualization. Albert Einstein says imagination is the highest form of research, and imagination is more important than knowledge. And what this is saying is when we're awake, we can set conscious intentions and use our imagination to actually repattern our neurotransmitters and neural pathways, and we can actually consciously choose to use other parts of our brain. We can choose to think outside the box. We can even add to our vivid imagination, we can add colors and dimensions and thicknesses. I mean, imagination is like the ultimate creativity tool, the ultimate. Charles Fillmore says, under the direction of your thinking faculty, imagination makes your world, sets its boundaries, outlines its course, determines its content, and brings all into manifestation. The key to stepping into this state of manifestation is acting as if your dream, your idea, your goal, your heart's desire were real and already accomplished. So act as if your dream, your goal, your desire is already real and accomplished. The term creative visualization was popularized by Shakti Gawain. She wrote a book by the same name. And she says that you have to activate all four parts of yourself in order for this to be optimized. So activate your spiritual nature, activate your mental, activate your physical, and activate your emotional. Because when you do all that, what you're doing is you're creating a brand new consciousness for yourself. What you're doing is creating that new consciousness from which will grow that new job, that new relationship, that house of your dreams. All of that will grow from this consciousness that you build. Exciting, isn't it? Okay, now here's the proof. The Russian Olympic team in 1980 divided their whole team into 4 groups. Group A only did 100% physical practice. Group B did 25% creative visualization and 75% physical practice. Group C did 50-50, and then Group D did 75% creative visualization and 25% actual time doing their physical. So guess which group won the most medals? D. It works. This is really the ultimate in creativity, is using that power of imagination. I invite you to try it, because it won't cost anything to try, and you have everything to gain. It's really all about intention and commitment. So let's make some commitments. I am a creative, resourceful person. Now, this is important for you to start off with. God created you in its own image and likeness. So we are children of God. So therefore, since God created heavens and earth, we too can create the world of our dreams. So are you ready? I am a creative and resourceful person. Number 2, I am willing to step into the unknown. And that's because even though it looks like a soup of nothingness, and even though it feels like a bottomless emptiness, it really is in and amongst all that turbulence, it's our divine curriculum for life. So let's make this one together. I am willing to step into the unknown. I am open to finding my way in God's way. I am open to be like Jacob and remember that in my dream time state, I have that direct access to God's mind, to be open to guidance, to know what the next right step is. Let's make this together. I am open to finding my way in God's way. And finally, no matter what it looks like on the outside, to trust the process. It works. Let's say that together. I trust the process. I trust the process and bring it into the center of my being, knowing that the work that was mine to do is complete, centered in turning it over into God's hands. Let's now sing this together.
God, I give you my heart, I give you my soul. I live for you alone, every breath that I take, every moment I'm awake. Have your way in me. Have your way in me.
Let's now take a moment to allow the enormity of possibility and potentiality to integrate into our hearts. We come into this time of meditation fully committed, fully trusting, and ready for you, God, here in the silence.